Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Alpha Shorts. Sweet, tight, tiny shorts.
Yes.
Like European male models. Plum smugglers.
Yeah, it's not really an image I need in my head, but I guess we're going with it.
No, yeah. So I think we're gonna start doing a lot of like little 20-minute. Now, just so you know, too, you can always go to your settings, and what I do, I listen to about 1.75.
Yeah,
really good friend of mine who's much smarter than I am. He knows who he is. I was just in New York watching him play Grandmasters in chess, but he listens at 2.
Yeah, it depends on how fast they're talking.
My brain ain't. I'm not retaining information at 2. If it's really heavy stuff, I got to go down to 1.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say typically I'm around 1.5, unless they're talking slow. Then I might bump it up to 2. But yeah, otherwise it's like I feel like I'm just wasting time if I'm watching like a 30, 40, 50 minute clip at one time speed. Why you just bump it up? So
no, I just
not
can't.
a bad thing.
No, yeah.
So I'm the same way. And so today,
I wish I could do that in real life. You know, when you're sitting there and somebody's like telling you some story, and you're just like,
yeah, let's just fast forward this a little bit.
Can I just like speed you up to one? And if he's watching, Smith, you know who you are.
Yeah, so this one we'll try to keep on the shorter end of things, and we've got other things we're going to be discussing today, tomorrow, this week. A lot going on. Today's Liberation Day, as Trump calls it, so I think we're going to be doing some probably tomorrow or later today. He's talking at the White House later. But for today, we're just going to do something that's kind of a current event going on right now.
Sweet.
It has
keep
to do
it current.
Luigi Mangione.
Luigi.
And so the reason why this is pretty current is just a couple days ago, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, just came out, said that they're going to be seeking the death penalty in the federal courts.
Yes.
So that's starting a lot of controversy. There's a relatively small portion of people. It's a decent size, though, of people who show support and sympathy to Luigi, and we'll kind of go into some data there later on in this video. But just to give a quick recap on the details of the murder itself. So this dates back a few months, back in December. So this is still under the Biden admin. Not that it really matters a whole lot. But Luigi Mangione murdered the UnitedHealthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. So it was December 4th. That was early in the morning. And just outside the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel that's in Manhattan. And there's a few details on the scene that kind of stood out. And so, like, on the bullet casings, they shooting with, there's the words delay, deny, and possibly depose. And so that kind of gave a real quick, I guess, initial motive behind it. And those words are very targeted. Yeah. And it's because of the health insurance.
Yeah.
And so delaying, denying claims, depose, and like defend, for example, defending profits, bottom line, all this and that.
There's actually so much here to unpack. I don't know how we're going to do this in 20 minutes.
We're going to try to fly through it. I think we're going to try to fly more so through these details of the case, since that's a little bit older. And we'll kind of move on to...
I guess unpacking it.
Yeah. And then also
fly away.
Unpacking our opinions on what should be done.
Yes. Our ever so important opinions.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of flying through this real quick. And then, so that was December 4th. And then 5 days later, December 9th, he was apprehended in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So...
yeah, this is the guy that got picked up with Mickey D's, right?
Yeah, he got caught, I think...
with no shirt on or something, right?
Well, the pictures of him show no shirt on. Some of the pics he looks jacked, but I don't think he's really that jacked.
Well, I mean, compared to you, who is?
Yeah, well, something like that. And so when they apprehended him, basically found a short manifesto, kind of diving into exactly what we think. You know, his hatred towards the health insurance.
Yeah,
he had an issue with his back, and he was denied like treatment for that. I think surgery.
Yeah,
and so that's where a lot of his frustrations stem from, and really over like corporate greed and then prioritizing profits.
Yes.
And this is where a lot of his support comes from, because people think that basically, not a lot of people, but there is a subset of people who support the cause of the killing, thinking that.
Yeah, I saw a ridiculous amount of posts from the people I know who are on the left. What do they call it? Hero, like making this guy to be a hero, assigning some moral high ground to him.
Yeah, and
I mean, you have, which just blows my mind, because on paper, the left should hate Luigi. He comes from privilege.
He is privileged.
Whereas the CEO of this company literally crawled his way out of poverty, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know the upbringing of Thompson. So
yeah,
but
one actually had to work to get where he was, and the other one's a little like a rich kid.
Yeah, you could say so for sure. And so, kind of getting into, take his glasses off. Kind of get into some of the statistics as of why Luigi might feel the way he does.
All right.
Just to give his perspective on
things.
Yeah.
No. There's definitely a problem. Nobody denies that one.
Yeah. So, a lot of his gripes come from the prioritization of profit over people, essentially. Like we said, deny, defend, all the above. But to give some perspective, though, so he's talking about all these corporate profits. The net profit margins range between 3 to 5% in the health insurance industry.
Yes.
So not massive profit margins. They're not. It's not nothing, but at the same time,
that is almost nothing.
Yeah. So pretty
it's closer to nothing than it is closer to good profit margins.
But then, as we continue to go through his data, we can see why.
Yeah. No. I know.
Yeah. And so in 2024, UnitedHealthcare specifically had a profit margin of 3.6. So they're right in that range, a little bit on the lower end of the range. But kind of where the issue stems from, presumably, is the admin costs. And so, their profit margins are slim, but their admin costs eat up 12 to 18%.
Yeah, they're running themselves like Twitter.
So that's stuff like billing.
And the federal government.
Yeah, billing, underwriting, marketing's a big one, and claims processing.
Yeah.
And so, as a business, these are things you have to do, particularly the billing or the marketing.
Yeah, but no. Well, no, finish your thought there with the marketing.
Well, I was going to say, like, as a business, like, you got to market to, be able to make the profit. Yeah. And then some of the other stuff is just like part of the operations, like the billing, underwriting.
Yeah, but remember, this is a privately held company. This is not the federal government.
Yeah, it's not.
So do you think they want their profit margins at 3.6%, or would they like them higher?
They would definitely like them higher.
So they would like them higher. So if they could reduce their admin costs, don't you think they would?
Yeah.
So really, why are there admin? Of course, it would mean higher profit. Anytime I reduce my costs, it creates more profit. Why in the world?
Well, you could argue, like, if you spend less on marketing, maybe you would save on admin costs. But
no, sure, you can lower. Yeah. You can lower any expense and increase profit. Doesn't matter what the expense is, right? On paper. But if I lowered my marketing to zero, I lose profit.
Yeah, your revenues go down.
Yeah, exactly. The number one most recognized branded show on the planet in the 90s spent 50 cents out of every dollar of revenue on marketing.
Yeah.
They're the most recognized brand on the planet when it comes to shoes, and yet they still had to maintain that position, spend half of all revenue generated marketing. Right?
Yeah.
Now, somebody could say, well, why don't you lower your marketing costs and shift that money over to paying the 7-year-olds in China? Well, there'd probably be a lot fewer 7-year-olds in China getting to work and provide for their families and make shoes if they didn't have those marketing costs. So some of this stuff can get argued out a lot of different ways, but my point is, obviously, if they could cut admin, they would. They're a privately held company. They want high profit margins.
Yeah.
Even with their marketing budget. There's an analysis somewhere being done on their part that in order to maintain market share and probably most likely grow it, this is what they have to spend.
Yeah, well, they're probably okay with taking slightly slimmer profit margins, pay a little less tax in addition to that. So I'm sure that's factored in.
Sure.
So I think sometimes profit margins are not as telling as what they really are made out to be.
Yeah, but everyone wants to claim that these companies exist for the sole purpose of making profit. So don't tell me that on one hand, and then tell me they're purposely trying to keep their profit to 3%.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying the left always tries to claim that being a for-profit business is evil.
Yeah, they're big on the corporate greed.
Yeah. A corporation that provides the jobs, the health care, the retirement packages, that.
Yeah, talk about job creation. I don't know exactly how many within UnitedHealthcare alone, but I know within the industry, I think it's a few million.
Oh, easily.
People, and because there's a lot of jobs, those admin jobs, but also sales jobs, and
and why is admin such a heavy cost on insurance?
There's a lot of
you think they want
underwriting.
that? You think they want that?
No.
So who forces it on them?
I'm sure a lot of government regulation.
Yeah.
But I think
it's the most heavily. It's 6% of our economy, correct?
I think it might be more.
Okay,
but yeah,
and it is one of the most heavily interfered with industries because half of the country wants to claim that healthcare is a human right, and so hospitals can't turn people away. We're about to make a law, and this is Trump, where they can't report your unpaid medical bills on your credit. Then who will ever pay them?
Good question.
Yeah. So then what happens to the cost of everybody else's health insurance?
It's going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a lot of this stuff is right in line with Barack Obama said when he was a senator for Illinois, where he told everybody, you can't get Americans to vote for socialized health care, but you can implement a system that will lead them to it.
Yeah. And I think there's some things on paper that someone like Luigi might be attracted to in a government-funded healthcare.
Yeah. Anybody who's never had to deal with the VA loves the idea of government healthcare.
And I think part of it stems exactly from these admin costs. So part of the reason why these admin costs are so high, one, marketing, like we've talked about, the government did it. There wouldn't be marketing.
Is marketing an admin cost?
Yeah, it's grouped in.
Okay.
Right. We're grouping it in. And so to put it in perspective, I said 12 to 18% for admin on average across these insurance companies. The marketing averages out to be about 2 to 5% of all revenue. So again, 2 to 5% out.
That's insane that you're somehow able to market a company for 2 to 5% of your revenue.
Yeah. Well, they make a lot of revenue. And then, but to put it in perspective, countries with the single payer system do spend significantly less on admin costs. So instead of 12 to 18%, it's anywhere from 1 to 3. And I think the biggest reason for this, outside the marketing, of course, is the fact that it's less fragmented. So there's a lot of health insurance companies out there.
Do you think it's because it's less fragmented, or?
I think it's a major reason.
Okay.
Probably the most major.
All right. Well, then I'm going to bet you it's not. Okay. So I'll give you, I had government health care. Okay. Shortly before my very last deployment, I was scheduled to have a surgery. I have a missing part of the inside of my nose or whatever, and they were going to implant something to hold it open when I breathe. You'll hear me all the time. I have to do this thing to get air to keep flowing through. Well, I get put in the chute. I deploy. I'm overseas, I think, for 9 months, 6 to 9 months. I come home. I land Thanksgiving Day 2011 in America. I outpros from the Army in April. I receive a phone call in August that my appointment is available. That's nuts.
Yeah.
We watched a video of a woman in Canada talking about how it was a year and a half for her to get an MRI on a brain tumor. That's nuts. So how much could I reduce my admin costs if I just ran so low staffed that it took a year and a half to get anything done?
Well, that doesn't mean the admin costs are high. It just means the service is very slow.
But it also means the admin costs are lower. Of course, it'd be lower.
Yeah, exactly.
Just think of, because if it takes me 100 employees to quickly process claims and line up surgeries and coordinate benefits and all the rest of it, and I cut that down to one Well, guess what? And now it takes you a year and a half to get anything through. Yes, I lowered my admin costs. Congratulations.
Yeah, and that's the dark side to the single payer health.
Well, that's what I'm
system.
saying. So is the admin costs
Well, I think a lot
lower in these countries because they are not having to spend 2 to 5% of their budget on marketing?
I don't think it's marketing. I think the fragmentation comes from like all the underwriting process. Like each company's got their own underwriting process, whereas like
The federal government has underwriting.
I
They
know,
don't just
but
let you do whatever you want.
well, instead of hundreds of different insurance companies with their own underwriting process, it's much more streamlined. I think that's pretty objective.
But if we're talking about one insurance company, they're only underwriting them.
Exactly. But then like another
So how does that impact their admin costs?
another company has a different underwriting process, another one has a different underwriting process, different billing, different, policies. And so it's like causing a lot more communications to have to be done with these hospitals.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the
So
case.
I think that eats up a lot. But again, like you said, it's not dull.
I can just strip all my admin people out and give you the world's shittiest service and pat myself on the back. I mean, I can strip all my marketing out and not have any clients and go, hey, look at me, I lowered my expenses.
Yeah. Well, I'm just giving the
I know.
perspective.
And I'm just
what people
arguing
say.
it for fun.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So, I mean, basically the fragmentation, everybody's got to do their own infrastructure, all their underwriting.
But really, let's go to something because you started off talking about the shell casings and what was written on them, right?
Yep.
Deny,
Defend,
depose, and depose.
Yeah.
Right now, in part of the country's utopian world in which they are trying to achieve, right? What's the alternative to that? If I'm a health insurance company, right? If I'm and any kind of insurance company, auto, health, home, anything, what's the alternative to that? Am I just supposed to process every claim you file?
I mean, definitely not, because then you're going to be losing money.
Well, I don't have to lose money. What would I do? I can just jack everybody else's rates.
Yeah, the high premium.
But somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah.
There's no magical. That's what's so weird to me, right? Other than the idea, and again, like everything that the left does is predicated on an extremely false concept. And that's that if you just strip all the money away from all the billionaires and all the millionaires, you can pay for everybody else's shit. Right?
Yeah.
But if you took every dollar from every billionaire, you can't run our federal government for an entire year. Then where do you go? If health insurance is a human right, are you enslaving the doctor and forcing them to provide the service for free? And do you really want that person doing that then?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be taxing the hell out of your citizens.
Yeah. Well, then that's the other thing. You have to steal money from somebody else to pay for it.
This would be still money for everybody. It'd probably just be like a FICA tax, a pretty hefty one on every.
Ridiculously heavy because because everything the government touches skyrockets in cost.
Yeah. So it definitely wouldn't be cheap. But continuing on with some gripes with the health insurance is that people with health insurance might still have pretty high deductibles. So they're still paying these premiums, which even on cheap health insurance is still expensive. And so it's going to be relatively expensive premiums. And then they're still paying pretty high out of pocket because, they got to hit their deductible. And so that's what causes some people.
Yeah, but here, I don't think any of this makes sense, okay? So I have a lot of clients and I've helped a significant number of them get health insurance off the healthcare.gov.
Yep.
Now, one of my favorite things to do is just to exploit these stupid programs, all right? So we'll have a client who's going to retire, and they're going to retire, say at 60, and Medicare doesn't kick in until 65. Well, depending on how we've structured their assets, we can provide income to them for 5 years that doesn't actually count as income. So then we go out to the healthcare.gov marketplace. Now, what's interesting about it is you have to make a certain amount of taxable income to qualify. Do you know what the number is?
Probably just equivalent to what you're paying, but
it's like 14 to 16,000. As long as you're making somewhere between 14 to 16,000, you qualify. You're not taxes. You're not paying that in taxes.
Yeah, just income. Yeah.
Income.
Yeah.
How hard is it to make 14 to 16,000 in a year?
Not that hard.
Now, can you do that working minimum wage?
Yeah.
Yes, you can do it working minimum wage.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at 14 to 16,000, you go to healthcare.gov. You don't pay a penny for your health insurance. It is 100% free with the exception of out-of-pocket, and they have pretty dang low out-of-pockets and copays. So who is it that is this at-risk group of people anymore, not able to get their health insurance and afford it? That's what I want to know. Because this argument's made all the time. I have personal experience with this.
So you're saying that they don't pay anything for the premiums?
Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada.
How do they do that? How do they pay nothing on premiums?
Oh, because at 14 to 16,000, you qualify for the maximum subsidization from the government, which brings your premium down to zero. From 14 to 16 and higher, the higher up in income you go, the more a year premium you're going to have to pay.
So what about people who make like $50,000?
It's pretty freaking low. We're talking a couple $100 a month. Because not all my clients...
But take-home pay for someone $50K, $200 a month is quite a bit.
No. Sure, but very few people are single making $50K. Usually there's two people in a household that'll be both making $50K. You can afford a couple $100 a month. And that's if your employer ain't providing it to you. So how are you making $50K and not having your employer provide it to you unless you're self-employed or a 1099 or something like that, right? But we're talking very small amounts of money.
Yeah. I'd have to.
Even if you're self-employed with 1099, you can deduct your income down and get it to the 14 to 16 and not pay anything.
Yeah, I'd like to, because I actually don't know what the deductibles would look like on those cheap healthcare plans.
No, I've done this like 20, 30 times.
Yeah, I would just imagine those deductibles would be pretty high, considering I do know.
What we should do? We should screen. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll do it after this,
and we'll screen video it.
Yeah,
and let's post it. I'll show this to everybody.
All right. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, kind of moving on. And I guess my point with that was just like, for some people, like that kind of disincentivizes people to go get a checkup or do this or that, just because they're already paying for health insurance and going to get this checkup basically is going to be completely out of pocket because they got to hit their deductible. And so they kind of procrastinate that, don't do that. And then down the road.
No offense. Checkups, there's the Affordable Care Act put into law. There's like 8 different things that have to be done free of charge for everybody every year. So there are no more of those preventative. There's very few things that could be preventative that you can make the argument that I can't afford to go do anymore. And it's all insurance has to provide this. Now, people might not know, but that's on you. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? Spit it out.
Well, I just have to look into that because I'm pretty sure on a lot of these checkups you're still paying out of pocket.
Nope.
Yeah.
Here, let's look it up.
I'm not saying for all checkups, but like for visits that are outside, like if you have something going on and you might need some kind of imaging or something like that, you're like, oh, I've got this issue, that issue.
Yeah, there's some imaging.
And those are issues that could be brought up, or like if something just doesn't feel right, like those are types of appointments that you're going to pay for out of pocket.
All right. So the Affordable Care Act established a set of essential health benefits that most private insurance plans are required to cover. These benefits ensure that individuals have access to a comprehensive range of services. There are 10 essential health benefits mandated by the ACA. Ambulatory patient services, care you receive without being admitted to a hospital, such as doctor's office visits, outpatient clinics, or same-day surgery. Emergency services, hospitalization, including surgeries, overnight stays, other treatments in hospital setting, maternity and newborn care, mental health and substance use disorder, prescription drugs, rehabilitative and habilitative services and devices, laboratory services, blood work, x-rays, other lab procedures to diagnose, monitor health.
You're still paying for this stuff. It's not, stuff's not free.
Not all of it is free.
Like almost none.
All of it is 100%. All of it is required by insurance companies to cover. And then,
but if you got a high deductible,
I'll get more into it. No. Some of this stuff is not required. Let me get more into it. Which of those services? So it's within the category preventative and wellness services and chronic disease management. These are plans that on the ACA, the Affordable Care Act marketplace, employer-sponsored plans and individual plans that do not require a copay, coinsurance, or deductible. as long as they are provided by an in-network provider. Screenings for breast cancer, colorectal cancer, colonoscopies, cervical cancer, blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes screens, depression screening, cancer screening, flu shots, measles, mumps, rubella, COVID-19 vaccines, childhood vaccines, shingles, pneumococcal vaccines, well women visits, annual checkups, contraception, FDA-approved methods like birth controls, IUDs, counseling, breastfeeding support, domestic violence screening and counseling, well child visits, developmental screenings, vision and hearing screens for kids.
So where's stuff like imaging and stuff like that?
Mammograms, pap smears. That was up here. It was in the screenings for breast cancer, colorectal cancer.
I'm not talking about cancer.
Cervical cancer. No, I understand. I'm just saying. That was blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes screenings. So MRIs you got to pay for.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
And then and just to be specific,
I'm just saying
about
there's
Luigi's
a lot of.
He's got a back issue, which is not at all free. Like
No. I'm sure it's not.
The initial visit with this primary care doctor to get the MRI referral is going to cost money. The MRI is going to cost money. The meeting with the spine specialist is going to cost money.
Yeah. So just say there's caveats here, right? If a preventative service leads to a diagnosis or treatment, the additional care might incur a copay or coinsurance. Now, some older plans in place before March 23rd, 2010 are grandfathered exempt from those requirements. And then there's timing issues, right? I mean, obviously, nothing here has been like welcome to La La Land where everything and anything is free.
Yeah.
But it's way more than people realize, I think. That's my only point, is there's a lot of this stuff that is absolutely free. It's screening, it's preventative. And through the Affordable Care Act, almost anybody should be able to afford their health care is all I'm saying. I've done this for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So there's a lot, just not, all encompassing.
No, of course not.
And then, so there's some other stuff that I think maybe the Trump admin's kind of moving in the right direction is just that lack of transparency. And so I think Trump moving, at least with the healthcare costs, like making that more transparent, is going to help things. But without any transparency, it gets really messy when you're dealing with the insurance company and the healthcare, and you don't know what the hell is going behind the scenes. You don't know what costs what, and then you get different prices at different locations for basically the same service. So lack of transparency is an issue that hopefully moves in the right direction. Because I think that's more bipartisan than anything. Because transparency is just like, it's not asking for free shit. It's just asking to know what something should cost. And so I think that is something that's at least bipartisan.
So you made a comment. I'm just curious, right? You said, there's different costs for different services in different places. Is that not true of every industry?
Yeah, but it's pretty absurd. If I
take my car to Aristocrat to get service, it's $3,500 for brakes. If I take it to, my favorite place, Mark Maz's.
Yeah, but like for example,
hundreds of dollars.
For example,
same thing's happening.
Yeah, but you're getting done at Aristocrat. Like for example, like for me, and I can
So I'm just saying. So in the health insurance world, or the medical world, right? If I wanted to go downtown to the hospital on Truman, right, and get something done for a couple $100, right, or if I want to go, to the, whatever the Advent Health place in Leewood, right? I mean, I might have two very different costs. Why would I not? Let's just go with the basic cost of real estate in these two places, right? Let's go with what I have to pay.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just telling you that for example, I did my MRI last year, and there's two places, and in fact, Advent Health shout out to Advent Health, was a way nicer facility than the first place I was looking at. Diagnostic imaging centers like Advent Health, way faster, way nicer. Okay. And you're telling me that to get my imaging done at diagnostic would cost 7 times more?
No. I would think it should cost you more the nicer place, although they might have economy of scale.
I would say they're about the same, but the fact that Advent Health is smaller made it nicer because it's much quicker, actually.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And so that's the reason why I say it's nicer. But what I'm saying is
but the other place, the shithole charged you more, or would it charge you more?
And it's not a shithole, but what I'm saying is not any nicer.
Yeah.
And so I understand different prices, but and I would understand like
there's different business models.
if
You
it
might
was-
focus on doing more of something than another place,
Yeah.
and because you do more of it, you might be able to have lower costs. I mean, who knows?
But I think the transparency would just be nice in the sense that like it's like this is how much it roughly costs, this is how much it should cost, and they can still charge whatever. But also, like you're going different places. Basically, and it's not just MRI, it's just anything. I'm not arguing that it should be cheaper, it should be free, it should be more expensive, less expensive.
Yeah.
But it's just like I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. Like when you're going to a doctor's office, like you're kind of just paying whatever the fuck you're gonna pay because
Yeah.
you got no other option. But like you're not surprised. You might go to a doctor's office and you wouldn't be surprised if you're paying $20 or $2,000.
Yeah, no. Okay, so this is something I do agree with, right? One of my favorite outcomes of the internet was you stripped all the power away from a used car lot.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's all gone.
Oh, exactly.
It's
That's
all
a
now
good point.
it's all now in your hands because I can go online and I can look up a make, model, and year of a car, and I can do a search across the country.
I think that's exactly like a great analogy.
Yes. So that's price transparency.
Yeah, I think that's precisely it.
Puts the power in the hands of the consumer. I'm 100% for it. What I'm against is when people use words like what it should cost.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
I don't want the government saying what anything should cost.
I agree, and so like that's exactly what I'm saying. And so like I understand if something's going to cost a certain amount, but it'd be like the transparency is nice, but yeah, as soon as
I should be able to go online, and you should have to have. You can come in and here's what the MRI is going to cost you.
Yeah.
And I can go pull up 5 different MRI centers and look at the prices and,
Exactly.
Then go to a crime map and see how many people have been shot in your
You
facility
take your
on
chances.
Truman.
Yeah.
Right. And go, I don't know if that's worth saving the $50.
because there's still going to be obviously like places that are more or less expensive.
Yeah, of course. And I want there to be.
Well, yeah, because like if you want a nice experience, like you should be paying more.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the whole point.
Yeah.
But as long as it's transparent, and then if they charge more, I think people will still use it. Like somebody
Of course
will still
they would.
It's like going to Whole Foods. Let's be real. Like those organic foods, not really like that much healthier for you. I mean, marginally maybe, but like it's not really worth the amount the amount you're paying there compared to like Walmart.
Hell no.
And so, but people still go there.
Yeah.
It's like they got the money to.
And they're allowed to.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing. And so I think, the car analogy one is perfect because it's like
I'm glad.
transparent.
Thanks for the compliment.
But if you still want an expensive used car, you can do it. If you want a cheap one, you can do it.
Yeah.
That's up to you. So I think that's actually a perfect analogy for how I'm feeling. And then,
Did you just say how you're feeling?
hell yeah, dude.
Oh, you're so.
We were saying that we're talking about instead of saying no homo, we got to say extra homo.
That's right.
So we're just very
Very extra.
Yeah, we're very in touch.
Uh-huh.
And then lastly, I have a feeling you're gonna, argue back on this one. But the other thing that could bring down costs overall, and this kind of goes into the fragmentation of things, is that as a single payer health system, the government would have a lot of bargaining power on pricing.
Yeah, price controls.
And well, not even price controls.
No, that's
but,
what it is. That's what that is.
Well, no,
That's price controls.
not necessarily. What I'm getting at here is, so
Look, when there's only one buyer of something,
yes, but
they get to control the price.
But at the same time, though, if there's one consistent buyer, like it puts less risk on like these healthcare providers.
So why don't we do that for every industry? Let's have one home builder. Let's have one farming company. Let's have one.
Well, you still have a lot
financial
of health,
firm.
You still have
This is
tons.
disaster.
You still have
it's
tons.
always disaster.
You still have tons of healthcare providers, though.
Sure, but not really. That's like claiming there's tons of McDonald's franchisees. Yeah, that's true. But there's one parent company that controls every single thing they do. Why? Because the federal government would be the single person providing capital. That means everything is done according to them. All you are is their bitch. You're not actually doing anything other than working for them. It ends in disaster every time it's ever tried.
Yeah.
That's my argument against it.
Well, even outside of that, the bargaining power. This is a smaller thing, but there is no need for profit in this case. So, but again, the profit margins, like we said, are pretty small. So
There's no need for profit. Let me ask you a question: how much is the doctor getting paid? How's that not profit?
Well, the healthcare, I'm saying on the insurance
So you're going to
side.
strip through. So strip out profit. You just save 3.6% of somebody's costs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a smaller amount. So I'm talking on the insurer side.
Hey, y'all.
And so between the no marketing, some of this less streamlined admin costs, like you're looking at 15, 20%.
Yeah. And I get to wait a year and a half to have anything done.
Yeah, that's the dark side about it. Okay, so moving over kind of away from what could be seen as maybe some of his motives for wanting to do something like this.
Yeah.
Kind of over to more of what's going on the legal process. So back in December, so December 23rd, Mangione pleaded not guilty to the state charges. So he's facing state charges and federal charges. And what Pam Bondi's talking about is on the federal side. So the state charges included first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty. And then March 31st, so just a couple days ago, 2 days ago, Pam Bondi announced that the federal prosecutors would seek the death penalty. And he's got his initial federal hearing in April, so a couple weeks from now, on April 16th. So it's just a hearing, not a trial. Yeah. And then he's also got his next New York State hearing in June, so June 26th. Again, just a hearing, not a trial. So New York, there's no death penalty, so he's not up for death penalty there.
Yeah.
But yeah, federal, the death penalty is possible, and not looking so good if you got the Attorney General coming after you.
Yeah.
And so I just was curious, and I like using these different AI platforms. So ChatGPT and Grok are the two I use the most. And so I tried giving like the most accurate, like their most accurate prediction on like what they think the probability is that the death sentence would be used in this case. And they both started at like wider numbers, but then as I continue to kind of drill down on
That's
get closer and closer.
It does require intelligence and question asking.
And I was surprised though, because ChatGPT started pretty high. I think it was like around 70%, and then Grok started pretty low, 20%. But as I'm asking questions, ChatGPT didn't move a whole lot, but Grok was moving a whole lot. And they actually ended up very close to each other. So ChatGPT gave me a range. Again, this is AI. This is all just prediction, estimation. Like, in reality, it's going to happen or not happen. But ChatGPT gave it a 55 to 65% chance that the death penalty will be used. And then Grok ended up giving it a 65% chance.
Wow.
So I thought it was interesting that like they, two different, basically AI systems that I'm talking to come up with a pretty similar answer, different reasoning. And like I said, they both started in very different places. Grok started pretty low.
And obviously, full disclosure, I'm 100% against the death penalty.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you'd take that stance. And
but we're not really talking about pro or con, right? You're talking about the fact. So I just, I will never be an advocate of the mob.
Yeah.
Having the right to execute someone. I don't care what you think they did.
Yeah.
And democracy is a mob, which we're not a democracy, but everybody likes to think we are. And I will never be for the state-sponsored execution of U.S. citizens.
Yeah. And I'm not as anti-death penalty, but here it's like tough because like supporters of Mangione would see him as like a
hero,
a martyr,
and a martyr. Yeah.
So
which is absolutely insane. Like that's one of the things that I find so interesting is that when you're, and I've mentioned this before, right? When you've convinced yourself that your enemy, that other people are your absolute enemy, and that your life is on the line, right? When you spin women up to believe that being anti-abortion is killing women, that me not voting to let you tax me to fund kids' lunches at school, when you convince yourself that those things are killing children, killing women, well, now what is off the table? What are you not willing to do to stop us?
You're trying to fight for in their head, the greater good.
Yeah. So
which is exactly what
Luigi is the epitome of a Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? You see it with the Keen of Teslas, the spray painting of swastikas on their cars, the lighting them on fire. You saw it during the summer of love, where they killed 19 people around the country and torched numerous cities, and every lying journalist stood there in front of a burning town and claimed it was peaceful. Right?
Yeah, not so peaceful.
No. And then you get to contrast that with January 6th, where not a single conservative person shot anybody.
Yep.
One person was shot, and it was an unarmed woman who was a veteran. But hey, we're all, we're the evil insurrectionists.
Yeah.
We're the evil Nazis.
That's what they like to paint.
Yeah. So no, I don't care what Luigi did. I don't think you should ever give the government the right to execute an individual in this country. And we've been over that a number of times.
I think it's pretty fair. So kind of going off that support for Mangione, what I found interesting is that I think this case is one of the most perfect examples of people who are in an echo chamber. And so I'll be on like any kind of social media platform, but in this case, it was YouTube the other day, and like, I'm watching some clips about Mangione, just doing some research on here, and some of these comments are just people. I've never seen an echo chamber quite like it. I'd like to pull it back up, but at first I was like on CNN, and all these comments are just like they're in their own echo chamber because like CNN was talking negatively about Luigi, and all the comments were like, "Come on, CNN, like you're not representing the people. The people like really support him, and these people really believe that the majority of America support Luigi." And I was even commenting with this one guy yesterday, and other people as well within this thread, and I've just never met people who are like so convinced that they're part of everybody's like claiming, of course, just claiming like 99% of people support him. But these people actually do believe that they're in the majority. And I just find it crazy because there's like actual polling around this. So it's not even something that like they think, and there's no polling so they can like lie to themselves and claim that the majority of people are on their side. There's actually polling. So I've got a couple different polls here.
Okay.
So this first one is from Emerson. So Emerson College Polling. They also do stuff like the presidential elections. And they polled people, and this is broken down by age in this case. But in total, 17% of respondents say that the murder was acceptable or somewhat acceptable. So to me, that's pretty high right there, but it's still only 17%. While 68% think it was unacceptable. And it's definitely very much something that's broken up by age. And so young people are far more likely to see it as acceptable or somewhat acceptable. So from 18 to 29, that percentage is 41%, which is mind-blowing high. But then it drops off pretty significantly. So from 30 to 39, it's 23%, and then 40 to 49, 13, 50 to 59, 8, 60 to 69, 9, and then 70 or more, 11%. So it's really just that young population. I'm not even entirely sure why.
Okay.
But, that kind of goes against their argument that, they think that everybody's okay with it. That's, what is that? Like I think it's exactly 4-1 people disapprove versus are okay with it, which in my opinion, that is higher.
25 is crazy high.
Well, it's 17.
17.
But then I was also hearing arguments about how this is, a nonpartisan thing, that like this is something that's like nonpartisan. It's like left, right, people from all sides appreciate this.
Yeah.
But just, it doesn't take a lot of intuition to know that that's just not true. Like I didn't even need to see this next poll to know that the left would significantly like outweigh the right as far as support for Luigi. Like not even close.
Yeah, of course.
And so I went searching for a poll, and luckily YouGov had a pretty good one. The Economist YouGov poll here. And so this is from December 15th to December 17th. So all this polling's done pretty much like within the first couple weeks of the murder. So when stuff was like really fresh. And so this one kind of proves my point. And so let's look at this. I have to put on my glasses for this.
Right, we're all getting old.
The words are a little small here.
Yeah, we can all wear glasses today.
There we go. Okay, so, and this is this favorability. So this favorability of a public figure, Luigi. So it's broken down by, we're going to look at favorable and unfavorable. And so favorable is a combination of very favorable, somewhat favorable, and unfavorable is a combination of somewhat favorable, unfavorable, and very unfavorable. So it's like the combination of those. And so as a whole, 20% CMS favorable as a figure, and 43% say unfavorable, and then the rest, 37%, say don't know, which is fair because a lot of people.
Fair. The guy straight up shot somebody in the back and murdered him.
Yeah, but some people just aren't on the news at all, and they probably don't even know.
I mean, if you don't know who he is, fine.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly what it is because this poll has got a bunch of other figures. There's like also checking for Donald Trump and a bunch of other things. So this poll is not only for Luigi.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that there is 37% that don't have an opinion. Yeah. But this is where it gets interesting. It kind of proves my point. So people who voted for Kamala Harris, it's 26% 26% favorable and 43% unfavorable. So it's 6% above the average.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she gave a very convincing speech to her people that I think really probably helped bolster those numbers, right? She said, Luigi young, Luigi gun. CEO bad, CEO old, Luigi young gun, shoot CEO. Right? That sounds like whatever.
Well, you're giving her too much credit because in reality, there would be a whole lot of rambling in between.
And then there'd be this.
But in the middle of your message is on point, but there would have been about an extra 500 words.
School bus big and yellow.
Yeah.
Country big. This country small. Countryside.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then compare that to people who voted for Trump in 2024. It's 15% favorable and 59% unfavorable. So it's 16% more saying unfavorable, and 11% less saying favorable. So you can't tell me that it's a bipartisan thing when the numbers are like those aren't close.
No. Don't get me wrong. It's not surprising me that there is a certain element, and I get this. I don't agree with it, but I get it. There's a certain element in America, and there always will be. Right, of the where we look up to and like the guerrilla warfare fighter.
Yeah.
Right. Bonnie and Clyde. Right. I don't know if anybody remembers that. No. I might be dating myself.
Maybe.
But the Hatfields and McCoys. There's always this element where we like the little guy that fights the big guy because he's little and they're big. He doesn't have to do it fairly. You know what I'm saying? There's always that element, right?
Yeah.
It's also why Trump supporters love Trump. It's funny because it's one thing the left can't wrap their head around because they just see Trump as like, even though they all claim he's not a billionaire and he's just a sham, they all then at the same time on the other side try and tell you it's, he's a billionaire and he doesn't care about the little guy. But we view him as the little guy fighting this giant monstrosity of a swamp of this political morass, right? Yeah. And so, and one of the reasons why I really like Trump is because he didn't follow the rules, right? So there are parallels, and if you're an American and there's an element within America on both sides of the political spectrum that is going to look at this guy, and even if you don't believe in murdering people who disagree with you, there is something about someone willing to storm the Capitol, willing to. Whatever figuratively way you want to envision that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that is some support. And I think within that, a better question in addition to that is to break down those people who are favorable to see like what their opinion on what the punishment should be. I think most of those people are still going to be agreeing, maybe not death penalty, but still life in jail. There are even smaller subset of people who's just like genuinely want to free Luigi, which is never going to happen.
Absolutely, and you saw that. You saw the same thing on the right with freeing some of the people, who did commit acts of violence against the police. There are people that believed everybody should have been pardoned, just because of the process that things went through.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always extenuating circumstances that one side or the other can latch onto, because there's always an exception to the rule, right? Yeah. But one of the things I want to get to real quick in regards to this is I think there's something that half of the country is desperately missing out on. All right. I'm friends with people from all sides of the political spectrum, and I get to see the things they post. All right. And so here's one from March 27th of 2019.
Okay, a little throwback.
I don't care what anyone says. Nazis and racists aren't real people and should be attacked and egged at every opportunity. Okay?
I'd be curious to know what his definition of a Nazi is.
Well, right? This is the problem, right? Like, you are in a party that thinks you can make anybody a Nazi because they drive a Tesla, right? And so here's the real problem, right? If for you to believe it's okay for you to commit an act of violence against another person, what has to be equally the other person's right to commit an act of violence against you? And so if you're going to tell me it's okay for Luigi to have walked up to a guy and shot him in the back, you can't tell me that there's something wrong with it going the other direction. If you're going to tell me it's okay for you to harm my vehicle, you don't get to tell me it's not okay for me to harm yours.
Yeah.
If you get to attack me for my beliefs, I get to attack you for yours. And I assure you, when the levels of attacks get so high that an actual real civil war breaks out, you don't want to be on the side of the people with low T who've spent their entire 30s and 40s making lattes at Starbucks and coding computers and trying to figure out what bathroom to use.
Yeah. The sad,
and everything else.
The saddest part about a potential like civil war, not that it's ever going to happen, is that if people just got the hell off their social media apps, off their phone, then
stopped watching the news.
Like there would never be any, like even a remote, like it would never happen.
No, I guarantee. Yeah, I guarantee you, Luigi got obsessed. You talked about it. He's in an echo chamber. He's in a bubble. He gets obsessed. He feels there's some injustice because his back hurts, right? And for some reason, he doesn't want to spend the money to get it taken care of. I paid out of pocket to get my back fixed just 3 years ago. I dealt with massive pain from the time I got out of the military to literally 2021? No, 22. That was 22, where I spent thousands of dollars finally, because I was at a point where I could, to finally get my back fixed, right, without surgery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there did I believe it was the VA's fault, the Army's fault, my insurance's fault for not being willing to do it. But when you go into these forums of all these people, these like-minded gripes and complaints, and you exist in that echo chamber, that bubble. I watch people all the time on every topic, and it happens on the right? People who are against abortion. If I make that my entire life, and I truly convince myself, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I truly convince myself, like, if you truly believe life begins at conception, and every single baby being aborted is a human being murdered, how can you possibly get up and go about your day?
That's precisely the problem.
Right? If I truly believe global warming is this existential threat that every 8 to 10 years has ended the world for the last 100 and is going to do it again in 8 to 10 more, that's called sarcasm because they always tell you it's 8 to 10 years. But if I truly believe, I'm going to sound like Greta Thunberg when she's screaming, "You stole my future," whatever, I can't even sound, it was insane, right? It becomes debilitating. You have anxiety. Why are so many, what is it, half of all liberal women under the age of 30 are medicated, right? Which just means the other half is untreated. So, because when you consume yourself with any of these issues, right or left, you're gonna have mental problems.
Yeah.
So just stop.
Yeah, because I definitely have my own strong opinions, but I at least like to see take a macro view and at least be aware of when I'm reading things or in some kind of chat or some where it is a potential echo chamber. I think everybody's social media feed is the definition of an echo chamber.
It is.
Because they literally, the algorithms.
Hey, do you want to see more posts like this? Yes, interested.
Yeah, the whole point of the algorithm
I'm literally creating my echo chamber.
Well, yeah, every social media platform is an echo chamber. So I think there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be at least self-aware enough. Like, you might be very strongly opinionated, but you can't go around thinking around like that. Like the example of this Luigi case, where people genuinely think that the majority of people approve of Luigi, even though the polls say the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
The exact opposite. The actual data.
Yes.
And it's like you have to. It's okay to, like, I'm not saying you can't approve of them. You can't do this. I'm not going to tell you to change your opinion. I'm just saying you have to at least be aware of reality.
Yeah.
And the reality is that, they're wrong. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying their opinion's wrong. They can have their own opinion, but you have to realize when you are.
Well, you're not saying the people who are backing them are wrong. You're saying the people who are claiming the majority of people support them are wrong.
Yeah. Well, yes. And because whether you back them or not, that's a matter of opinion, and there's no such thing as a correct opinion.
Yeah.
I might disagree with it, and I do, but the opinion's not wrong. That's their own opinion. That's the whole point.
But it's only 16% of the population that supports them.
Yeah. Which is definitely not a majority.
Nowhere close to a majority.
And it's around 4 times as many people disapprove. Yeah. And in my opinion, that's still pretty high. Like, I think it's crazy that there's more than 5% of people who support him.
Yeah, but again, right? I mean, I don't know, because you think about the percentage of the population that's impacted by the screwed up healthcare system, which I blame squarely on the government. But most people don't realize that. They blame it on corporations because it's what the journalists tell them. And is it really that surprising when so many people are impacted by it? All we ever hear about is how horrible it is. I don't know. I would say 5 to 10% is easily like.
Yeah, I mean, there's always be some, but I think for me, it's just still very crazy to ever support any kind of premeditated murder. And you watch the clip of Luigi doing it because it's out there.
Yeah.
And he's shooting the guy from behind.
Yeah.
Doesn't even see it coming.
Yeah. It's a straight up cold blooded murder.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And so I just have a
and it's like, yeah.
And so I'm just
telling you, if you support that, someday it's coming your direction.
Yeah. And you try telling, talk about having no sympathy, they have sympathy for Luigi, but then imagine his wife and his kids, trying to explain to them why their dad just got murdered in public.
Yeah.
Pretty messed up. And just from behind, they didn't even actually confront him, just shot him right in the back.
Yeah.
Sucker punch, but with a bullet. So yeah. And so kind of moving on to our last little topic of the day, something that I find to be pretty absurd, but it's from California, so it makes sense.
Oh, wait, are we going off the Luigi topic?
It's still Luigi.
All right.
It's still Luigi.
Because I do want to cover Politico's article.
Well, we can do that first. I am referring to the Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act that's being proposed in California.
No way.
I don't know if you heard about that. So it was submitted. So it's a proposal for a ballot initiative. So it got submitted March 28th. So basically it's something that it's going to end up being.
All right, before we get into that, I think this is going to pertain more to what you're just talking about. Who supports him or not.
Okay.
All right, Politico penned an article. All right. Politico playbook shocked observers Tuesday with an insane take that Trump administration seeking the death penalty against Luigi Mangione, whatever his name is, could cause President Donald Trump to lose Gen Z. This goes in with they're trying to. So is all 16% of supporters all Gen Z? Is that how they get the entire? He's going to lose the entire Gen Z, right?
Well, Gen Z did heavily support him, but
Playbook Politico placed the news under its 6 Things You Need to Know banner beside a blurb reading how Trump loses Gen Z. So, I mean, this, I don't even, I love Stephen Miller from The Spectator. He goes, just more of that invaluable subscription journalism our federal employees can't do their jobs without.
Yep.
I love Stephen Miller, man.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
Gates McGavin, RNC senior advisor, said, highly recommend that whoever came up with this framing go outside and touch some grass. Phil Kerpen, and I hate to make this one, I don't know all about millennials, but he says Politico is so hopelessly millennial. I don't know what millennials did to piss that guy off, but and then Jeffrey Ingersoll from Daily Caller, he's the editor-in-chief, said, holy shit, these people, children need parents to tell them hard truths like, hey, targeted assassination might get you executed by the government.
Seems
they
reasonable.
need. Do you remember Chris Rock's video on how not to get your ass beat by the police?
No.
Oh, it's one of the greatest skits of all time. And I feel like we need something for the 16% of how not to get yourself executed by the government, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I mean, it's just, it's like, no offense, if prosecuting someone, like I said, I'm against the death penalty. I don't think they should seek the death penalty. But if prosecuting someone is going to turn you off, someone who cold-bloodedly murdered someone by shooting them in the back, and this is not someone who, like, raped one of their kids, you know, like they committed no direct harm to you or your family, right? Yeah. I'm all for you killing anybody that you kill anybody that commits a direct harm to you and your family, preferably in the act, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. But because I believe everybody has the right to defend themselves. But if you think that you're going to lose a group of people because they're going to be so outraged that you prosecuted someone who cold-bloodedly gunned his father down in the streets because he's the CEO of a healthcare company, no offense, good riddance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I, like for myself, like I don't really have a super strong opinion. I don't know if death penalty is the best thing to do here, but like at the same time, I at least like what I appreciate is at least like the messaging that like the whole Trump administration has is that like whether or not they actually do sentence him to death, which in reality I probably don't see happening, but like I at least appreciate the anti-crime messaging because you have to have like a strong message on that. Whereas I feel like without Trump in office, we don't have that. And he's got strong messaging on crime, strong messaging on immigration. And it's like stuff like that. And even like internationally too.
Do you remember when David Duke, the former head of the Klan or whatever he was, said, well, of course Trump's, he said something like, of course Trump voters are his voters. You remember that? It was 26 August of 2016. Former KKK leader David Duke says, of course Trump voters are his voters. And then all the leftists and all the journalists see Trump's a Klansman because the Klanman said he, like that he, whatever you want to interpret that comment to mean, right? You're literally telling me that a cold-blooded murderer, the people that support him, are going to not vote for, like, you pick up what I'm laying down? I'm having a hard time putting it into words, right?
No, I see it. And I don't know.
There's a whole group of people that think it's okay to straight jack murder somebody in the back on the streets who's done nothing to you. And we're supposed to be worried about losing them as voters? Yeah. Well, how about all of them and David Duke all go back to the party from which they came from?
I would agree.
Trump don't need them. MAGA don't need them.
In my opinion, I think the thing that will bring in the most voters to the right is just Trump telling it how it is, telling his true opinion.
Well, hey, I'll tell you. You know what's been doing it? Just Trump being Trump.
Exactly. And so I don't think he needs.
It's been working pretty well.
I don't think he needs to cater to anybody in Gen Z.
No.
So
I don't think he needs to cater to anybody.
Yeah. So I think that's why people like him.
Yes.
So kind of moving over to this initiative.
All right, there you go.
So it's called Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act. And so it's a proposed ballot initiative, and it was submitted to the state attorney.
And they're literally going to name it after the guy.
It still could be changed. So for example, like I think the attorney general could change it
California's insane.
directly. But the fact that this got proposed with this name, and so basically it's still in a phase right now where I think I forget what they call it, but it's like basically just open to public opinion. And then from there, I think in a couple weeks, let's see, I think I have it somewhere on here. So yeah, it's in the public comment phase until April 25th. So a few more weeks where really nothing's happening with it. But then it'll be basically the Attorney General will give it an official name and summary, just describing what it is, and then the official name. So it might end up being this. And then from there, they need to start collecting signatures. So it's like a little over 500,000 signatures that they got to collect within 6 months. If they do that, then this would be on the ballot. So whether or not it's going to end up being called this, we don't know. It might, very well might. But the fact that they call it this anyways is crazy. So what it is that it aims to prevent health insurance companies from delaying, denying, or modifying doctor-recommended medical procedures or medications when such actions could lead to serious harms. And so, literally the exact same words that are being used on the bullet casings.
Yes. Well, and it's like, Democrats are always like, you don't need to pass a law for that. It's already illegal, right? Like the law for not selling baby parts or resuscitating a child after if it's a botched abortion and it's delivered alive. You're never allowed to pass a law that reinforces that. Is there somewhere where it's not the law that if there's a medical, like a life-saving medical treatment that the doctor doesn't have to do it? Is this not a law already?
Yeah. I'd be curious to see actual statistics on how much like this stuff's being denied.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so
how many life-saving surgeries are being denied by insurance?
And basically
zero.
Basically what this act would be doing would be that delays and denials could only be made by doctors on behalf of insurers. So the doctor would be the only one who could deny it.
Oh, that sounds smart.
Yeah.
Because doctors are the infallible moral superiority people, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they say. And so this would allow patients to sue insurers for wrongful denials, with penalties including triple damages and potential felony charges for violations. So basically, insurers, like the executives, could go to jail for like mistakes. Like if they get sued, they could potentially go to jail, face a felony. And so, yeah.
We got to wrap this up. It's 11:45.
Yeah, I know. So we're almost done. And so, yeah, on paper, it's supposed to, be able to, get people more access to healthcare. But on the flip side, the opponents of this would say that it would lead to much more expensive healthcare or insurance because, the insurance companies are going to be spending a lot more money to follow rules, make sure that they're proving all the right things so they don't get, charged with felonies and get sued. And then they're also be spending more time fighting lawsuits. So that's a lot more overhead costs that they're going to have that gets pushed right back to the, people who are paying the premiums. And then the other argument would just be that it would just slow the court system down in general if there's more people suing insurers. So whether or not the act is any good, I don't really care as much. I just think it's crazy that they're naming it. Only in California would you name an act
against a murderer. Name it for a murderer.
Yeah, a murderer for a murder that just happened like 4 months ago. And he's literally, going to either be in jail the rest of his life or he's either going to be in prison the rest of his life or he's just going to be put to death. And so... Yeah,
I just think he should be put in prison.
I agree. I just think it's crazy. It's only California.
I don't even think he should be put in prison for the rest of his life. Like, for me, the purpose of incarcerating someone for life is one of two things. Either what they did was so heinous, they don't deserve freedom ever again as long as they live. Or two, they're a continual threat to society. I would highly doubt Luigi's a continual threat to society. And while murder is horrible, you just ended somebody's life forever and nobody can get it back and you impacted their wife and their kids. In the grand scheme of things, whacking one dude.
I think he needs to go to jail or prison the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent a message. And
you see, and I don't buy into that one either because that was the left's argument for January 6th.
And they sent a pretty big message.
No, they did. And what do? We overturned it and got them all out.
Yeah,
5
we
years later,
have
took 5
literally
years.
premeditated murder that other people go to jail for life for.
Yeah, and I don't know that anybody should be going to jail for life for premeditated murder unless, like I said, they're either a continual threat, and usually in premeditated murder, you're not.
Well, he's also facing terrorism charges.
Yeah.
Because he's pushing his political agenda through like threats of violence or it's literal violence. So in addition to first degree murder, he's also facing terrorism charges.
I know. I don't buy the terrorism charges. I think that's bullshit.
I mean, I think it pretty accurately like fits a definition of like the literal definition of terrorism.
I just think you can start to make anything fit that definition almost. If I have an ideology and I push it and I harm somebody, then it's terrorism. Isn't it terrorism then everybody keying a Tesla vehicle?
If you, domestic terrorism, yeah. But like, is it as bad as killing someone? No.
Well, obviously,
there's different levels to it. So yeah. So
you know how much I'd love for somebody to scratch my Tesla. I would never fix it. I would never fix it. Yeah. I would literally go get a wrap designed to like highlight, like go around the damage done that just says this is the Democrat America. This is the mentally unhealthy, unfit, deranged, work of a Democrat. And I would drive that car that way for
you got to be proud of
wheels fell off.
Hell yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely making me want to go out and buy a Tesla, or at least for now, buy some Tesla stock. I may not be able to afford a Tesla.
Yeah, I want to get another one.
Yeah, like it or
10.
So it only drives me to support them more.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. Look. I don't like the idea of our jail system the way that it's currently set up. I don't think people should be squirreled away for the rest of their lives for doing something unless it's just like super heinously bad. And I think murder obviously is approaching that. Right.
Yeah, I would say so.
But anyways,
premeditated, I definitely think.
No, I know it's premeditated, but again, premeditated, it's like
he had a lot of time to decide not to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
No.
I think he should.
Writing words on his bullet casings.
I think he should spend like 10 to 15 years in prison.
I think he should spend about 80 years. If he's still in his hundreds and he's still in prison, then we can release him there.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty in this case anti-death penalty, but I do think he should spend.
Or better yet,
pretty much
we do. How old were the guy's kids?
That's a good question. I don't think that old.
All right, so here's what you do.
I don't think
you put him in jail until that guy's kids turn 18 years of age.
That ain't gonna be long.
All right, then you create like a maze, and you give his kids guns. And if Luigi can get out of the maze and get to freedom, he lives. Give his children a chance to
revenge.
Revenge their father.
Avenge. Yeah.
And then you live stream that on pay-per-view to help offset the cost of everybody else we keep in prison.
You know what? That's a bold idea, but I'll take it.
All right.
That's how you get out early.
It's a little, do you remember that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Running Man?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yes, sir.
Sub-Zero. All right. Well, one quick shout out. One of my all-time favorite actors died this morning of pneumonia, 65 years of age.
Who's that?
The Iceman.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, Val Kilmer.
I did not know that.
Yep. One of my all-time favorite movies, The Saint. Yeah. Fantastic. One of his more underrated ones. Wow. The first movie to ever get his claim to fame, The Doors. Also one of my favorite all-time bands, little underground LA rock and roll. Heat. Quite possibly the most epic film ever made in my book.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I had no idea. So
rest
in peace.
Both Top Guns, obviously.
Yeah.
Was it Weird Science?
I don't know.
There's one from the 80s. It's a funny comedy movie, pretty damn good. I don't think it was Weird Science. Pure Genius. I think it's Pure Genius.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I know mostly from the Top Gun. So
yeah. I'm old.
Yeah.
So, anyways, loved Val Kilmer, and thought he was a fantastic actor.
Yep.
And he beat throat cancer, but when you have the tracheotomy or whatever it's called, it's very difficult not to mess up a lot of the inner workings of the throat, and they start to have lots of issues.
Yeah.
And so he passed this morning, I think, or last night of pneumonia. So whatever higher power he believed in. Bless his soul.
Yep.
All right. Well, until the next one of these is Elliot
Nathaniel.
signing off.